Hey, what's going on, guys, ladies and gentlemen? So, yeah, I know it's been several months since I've done a video. I actually think my last one was around November. Still haven't come up with a title with this one, but that'll be all right. So, I've been sitting here thinking about a few things with the school district and substituting. Sitting there having a conversation with myself and started thinking, yeah, maybe I should just go ahead and record it and do a video. I haven't done one in a while. For the most part, substituting's been fun. I've enjoyed it. Done some solo classes. I'll do a solo job over at one of the middle schools or one of the high schools. Elementary school, I only do Teachers Aid. But it's fun. I don't know if any of y'all have been following the blog, but I did a writing not too long ago talking about advocating for parents and students, and I kept asking the question, how do we advocate for parents and students? You know, my time substituting for Teachers Aid, which I've done for both the middle school and the elementary school, it's been one of the things that I've noticed is, and I've kind of sort of been privy to, sometimes one of the teachers, the primary teacher or whatnot, primary being lead, not primary as an elementary, because it's at both levels, but they'll have a new student that they've got to advocate for. One school in particular, a lot of the students go there until they get placed into a certain program for special education. And one of the things that keeps coming up when they come back from a meeting is, you know, their evaluations and the evaluations of the professional observers or evaluators, whatever you want to call them. Sometimes they're neurologists, sometimes they're developmental psychologists, sometimes they're, you know, they're whatever. It just depends on what it is that the student or the child needs. They have a medical review as well as the educational review that comes from the special ed instructors who've had this child that they've been teaching, instructing, trying to help, and also doing some evaluating observations and tests with for the educational level. But it seems like for these instructors that I've had the privilege of being in their classrooms, for the ones that will openly talk to me, seems to have a common theme of somewhere above them in the food chain isn't always the support that's needed. Now, sometimes it comes with the parents. Sometimes the parents really don't want to believe that their child has something, whether medical or behavioral or psychological, or even physical for that matter. They don't really want to believe that they could have a child that might need something special, some extra help. They're afraid of the stigma with the label. And that's understandable. It really is. I've been there. I was one of those students who wound up in a learning disability class for a few years. But I got the help that I needed, and I was able to work my way out of it. I went back into the general education, I guess you could say community or whatever. But it got me thinking, you know, you have professional medical evaluations that suggest something. You have professional educators, this is their specialty, who are saying, this is what I've seen, this would probably benefit, let's try it type deal. And somewhere along the line, somebody says, the paperwork we got back says inconclusive, borderline. Let's just throw them in general pop. Sorry, that's a law enforcement term. Let's just throw them in general education. Put them in with everybody else. That's a problem. And a lot of times as these kids get higher in education, for those that either struggle or they fall behind, they get frustrated, they get irritated. A lot of times they'll become behavioral problems, especially when they get to the point where they quit and they give up. So my question is, how do we advocate for these students? There are programs, there's monies, there's charitable organizations who donate and help. There's money that comes from the federal government, and this money is attached to the student, it's not attached to the school. The schools get extra funding and help for each kid that's in a special education program, whether it's a full-day program or it's something that's part-time. They may spend one class period in there, getting the help that they need. This money comes from the federal government to help those schools, and they get money based on the number of students, not anything else. I hate the fact that there are strings attached for anything and everything that comes from the Fed. A lot of times from the state as well. There's always strings attached, and I hate that. And it can be discouraging, I understand. But at the same time, if we can help these students, why don't we help them? Especially when we can find it and start a treatment, start giving aid at a younger age, because there's a higher probability of them being able to adapt and be ready and able to handle a general education setting for the entire day. Which means that they'll do better at school, such as college or university. They'll do better at tech school. They'll do better when they start working and learning what they need to know for their job, building on their career, and so on. It's that laying of a foundation. So there's one of my questions. How do we get advocating for the students and the families and the parents? Even advocating for the teachers who see some of these needs and push for it, but they're still denied. See, my original goal going to school and back to school was to become a teacher. I wanted to teach, I wanted to reach out, and I wanted to try and help the students. My goal was secondary education. You guys have probably heard me talk about this before, but my goal was secondary education because I felt like I could relate to the high school students more. I can relate to the high school students pretty well. But I've also discovered my time in the middle school, I do pretty well with the middle school students too. In fact, the last time I substituted, I had several students in my class who remembered me from another class that I'd substituted. And we had some conversations, and they liked having me as a sub and wanted me to substitute for more of their classes. That's kind of I don't want to say ego boost because that's wrong, but that does give you a nice warm feeling. Knowing that they like you, they feel like they can talk to you, and they start opening up to you. One of the classes I substituted was a science class. There's a troublemaker in every classroom. The troublemaker ran his mouth. As soon as the instructor left, I was only doing a half day. He started running his mouth. You know, just one of these little smart mouth verbal kids. Not too much of a big deal. But with the way the school system is right now, for the middle school, they have their lunch inside the classroom. They go and get it. If they have to go to the lunchroom, they'll go and get it and bring it back. But they have lunch. Well, with this one class that I substituted, they had lunch. And then after lunch, they went outside to walk for a little bit. And they were just basically walking around the bus loop. It was cold, so a lot of the kids weren't actually thrilled with it, but they went anyway. Not that they were given a choice. And my class was one of 3 that went out there. Well, surprise, surprise, it was my first time ever meeting this kid. A kid that I thought was going to be a troublemaker until I got rid of him in class change. Really wasn't that bad. In fact, when we were walking outside, he slowed down and waited for me, seeing me hobbling along with my cane. And he started talking with me while we were out there. He was trying to explain to me that how he is in the classroom is not the same way that he is at home and out of school. I believe him. I mean, I really got no reason to. But he started to open up a little bit more, and he was talking about one of the reasons he's the way that he is in the classroom is because it's what his peers have expected of him. And I kind of looked at him and I said, well, you know, I guess. I kind of sort of remember being like that at your age too. I said, but to be perfectly honest, the type of people you would like to have around you are probably the ones that you hang out with outside of school, and they see how you are. And if you act like that in school, the same as out of school, you're going to draw people to you that you want within school, instead of feeling like you have to be a certain way that you may or may not actually like. You know, and conversation continued. I talked with him a little bit more. I was kind of sort of a smart mouth at times, and when I was going through school too. There's times I was a smart mouth, there's other times where I was the quiet kid. But this is a kid who'd never met me before. I'd never substituted for him before, and he opened up. Seemed like he felt like it was easy to talk with me. Kind of made me feel good. But yeah, last time I substituted, I guess last week, I had students in the hallway who recognized me, said hi, asked if I remembered them, and then went on their way to their class because they weren't in mine. Excuse me, sorry. Kind of made me feel good. So originally I picked up 3 days this week. All of them teacher's aide at one of the elementary schools. For, again, special ed class. Went in Tuesday, supposed to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I went in Tuesday morning yesterday, and when I went to sign in at the office, I was told that class was closed. Kind of weird phrasing, but I was like, okay. It's something to do with the virus, with COVID. They didn't really explain. I really didn't ask them to alleviate. But the principal came out, and they were trying to find another class for me. When the substitute sign-in roster came out, there was only 2 people on there, me and one other person, and the other person hadn't even shown up yet. So after about 10-15 minutes, the principal comes back out to the lobby, calls me over, and says, look, I don't have anything for a substitute. He's like, I can take you out of the system and you can try to find another school, middle schools and the high schools start later. So he was thinking I could pick up another opening and go to another school for the day. And I kind of thought about it, but yeah, he profusely apologized. He's like, I just don't have anything else for a sub. I really don't. I was like, no, I don't want to do a solo class at an elementary school. But I kind of looked at him, I was like, not even a solo class? He said, no. He said, we've got a problem where I guess if they reach a certain percentage or a certain number of students who have possible exposure or test positive, the classrooms are being closed and the students are staying home. As he was explaining it to me. Now, I haven't been watching the local news, so I don't know this stuff. I've been avoiding the news like it's a plague. There's nothing good on. It's all depressing or angering or whatever. So I've been avoiding it. I didn't know this was going on since we got back from the break. So he went in and he released me, went back home. I looked. The high school and the middle school had a lot of openings. But then I also sat down and I thought about it and I was like, you know what? My class opened up yesterday, or my class started yesterday. I didn't get as far along in it as I wanted to do. I got the discussion board done and that was about it. I started reading the first chapter. I had 3 chapters in one book, 1 chapter in another book. I was like, okay, I'll just take today off since I'm home and I'll continue with school. You know, first week, want to make a good impression, so on. So I just stayed home. I got a friend of mine who's let me borrow their car so that I can work more shifts. I just have to get up a little bit earlier in the morning. She picks me up, I go to work with her, drop her off, get in the driver's seat, and I take the car, come back to the house, and either lay down for an hour or get ready for work. So I was talking with my mother about what happened yesterday, and I was talking with her about what happened yesterday. Well, at that point in time, I had 2 medical appointments on Friday. I now have 3. One of those medical appointments, actually 2 of those medical appointments are in preparation for a procedure that's being done Tuesday. But one of those is a COVID test. I have to test negative in order to have this procedure that I'm not looking forward to. So kind of got it from both sides. I got it from a friend and I got it from my mother. And they were both telling me, just stay home this week. Numbers are on the rise, so on and so forth. Just stay home this week. Don't even run the risk, you know, because you're going to have this test. I didn't want to. I could really use the money. Well, I stayed home. Yesterday, I read 2 more chapters. Watched a couple of the video lectures. Day moved on. It got to be about 4 o'clock. I went and looked. High school, middle school both have, the high school and the middle school that I go to both have a ton more openings for substitute positions. I'm sitting here going, this is cool. I was like, this is great. I can take a sub position, possibly 2. Because the high school's already told me that they have a bonus if instead of taking my planning period, I take my planning period and sub for another class, I get paid I can't remember if it's like a $50 or $100 bonus. I get paid a bonus if I work all 4 periods. I believe the middle school has something along those lines too. I was like, so if there's something available during my 1 or 2 planning periods, I could turn around and work those 2 and make even more money. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I've got that test coming up. I said, these absences, these teacher absences are increasing, and they're increasing by the hour, which is also really unusual. I was like, I really don't want to stay home, but maybe I need to stay home. And I looked at the time, and I was like, you know, I've got enough schoolwork to keep me busy tomorrow, probably into Thursday as well. If I'm not busy, then Thursday I can start on the next module. And that way I can keep working ahead so that when things calm down or whatnot, I can start taking shifts. And if I do start falling behind, I'm not having to stay up quite as late coming home from work to keep up with schoolwork as well. So I decided to take the rest of the week off. But COVID numbers are going up again. Which kind of brings me back to another story. I guess it was like the week before the break, before winter break. I was substituting at a kindergarten class. I was there for a day and a half. The first day I started out in a special ed classroom. But the kindergarten instructor had gone out and didn't have anybody to help them. So the principal had called down to the class I was at because they had like 2 one-on-ones as well, and asked if I would be interested in the second half of the day helping in kindergarten, because otherwise the instructor was going to be on their own, whereas that room already had 2 assistants. I said, sure, why not? Okay. So the second half of the day, I go to the kindergarten class, find out the instructor is going to be out for a while. Well, I didn't see anything for the next day. So next day I did whatever it was that I did. I don't remember. Might have been working on a paper. Might have been working on my final paper. And then that Thursday, vacancy popped up, so I went ahead and took it. Well, the first half day that I was in there, in the kindergarten class, actually, that morning at the special ed class, we had a kid go home sick almost as soon as he arrived. Second half of the day, I was in the kindergarten class. I had to take a kid up to the nurse's office for being sick. Second day, I come to the kindergarten class. I'm taking another kid up to the nurse's office because they're sick. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking with the nurse. And the nurse is talking with me. She's starting to recognize me. Been there for 2 days now. And her and I are talking, and she's like, COVID numbers are on the rise. We've got 3 kids that are out confirmed. I've got to do paperwork and back tracing. This kid that I took up there, well, both of the kids I'd taken up there over the last 2 days were up there for something different. Turns out, she informs me there's a stomach bug going around. Well, I was already on a broad spectrum antibiotic for bronchitis, which reduces your immune response. Yes. So now I'm sitting here, I'm going, great. My immune response is reduced due to this broad spectrum antibiotic I'm in the middle of taking. And I'm sitting here in a school with 2 pathogens that are running wild through it. Maybe it's time that I start keeping my mask on. So yeah, I kept my mask on. It was still a good day. I liked being with the kindergartners, which kind of surprised me. But yeah, I really enjoyed being with the kindergartners. Maybe it was the instructor. The instructor was kind of fun. Maybe it was the fact that we were getting ready for the holidays, so we really weren't doing a whole lot. Although the second day that I was in there, they did have some kind of standardized testing they had to do on their laptop or on their tablets. And of course, we ran into problems with that one. We had one of the IT people was in there twice to help us get probably a good quarter of the class because they got stuck on something, issues with the program itself, nothing the kids were doing. Yeah, I know this is very discombobulated. It's not in like a timeline order or anything, but oh well. So here I am. I have that before the break. One of the classes that I substituted for coming after the break, the first week after the break, I was moved. I was supposed to be in a special ed class as a teacher's aide. I got moved out of that and put into a solo class where I was basically just babysitting. The instructor was at home teaching live over their laptops. Come in, tell the kids pull their laptops out. The instructor is going to be, well, your teacher is going to be instructing live from home, and then I take physical role while he takes virtual role. Not to mention the fact our attendance sheets don't match, but that's for the school to sort out. So that was an interesting day. Kind of long. But I also informed the kids, I also informed the students as they were coming in that this is probably how the class was going to go the rest of the week, or at least that's what I was told. Somebody would be in the classroom to physically watch them while the instructor was giving live lecture from home. Most of them weren't thrilled, but it is what it is. We all have to do what we ought to do, or gotta do, right? So, fast forward, going back to yesterday. This whole situation, COVID numbers are up. Flu is spreading like crazy as well. I ended up finding out through a couple of friends. Apparently, people are now getting both COVID and the flu at the same time, which is really taking a toll on people. Here I am getting ready to take a procedure I don't want to do, but I have to do. To which I have to have somebody else drive me and take me home. And to boot, I've got to have a COVID test. So yeah, I'm staying home. But right now, things are so bad right around here in the area. I heard something last night about Colleton counties going virtual. They're supposed to start that later this week. They're preparing for it now. And then this morning I hear Berkeley County's going virtual because they have so many students and teachers that are out. And Berkeley County is right next to us. Now, granted, supposedly both of these districts are going virtual only temporarily. My district already did that once at the beginning of the school year. I think it was in September. They went virtual for about 7 or 9 days. But I'm sitting here wondering, when is my district going to go virtual again? Because when they go virtual, substitutes don't have a job. We don't get to work. If we don't work, we don't get paid. Even if we work 5 days a week, we're still considered part-time. So I don't know. Things are getting kind of crazy. Again. Like I said, I'm not watching the news. So these are things that I'm seeing and other friends are either asking me or telling me about. I've got friends that are like, hey, how is this going to affect you? Not well. I mean, it's not going to affect my taking class. That's all online. But as far as work goes, it's not going to affect me very well. I had a couple people who had reached out and they were like, one in particular was telling me that her husband works from home for a company. I mean, it's interesting because my brother told me the school that he works at, apparently they had some employees who left to go work for this company because the hours are more flexible, the pay is better, and so on and so on. The same company that a friend of mine, her husband works for, but it's working remotely at home. She's like, hey, go look at this. I know you need more money. Go look at this, so on and so forth. And I kind of hemmed and hawed, but I was like, you know what? I need more money. You know, I really don't want to quit subbing, but I may not have a choice. I'm not making much as it is, and I need more. So I go and look at it, and it's like the requirements for being at home and working remote. Currently, the way the situation is here, we can't do it. I need a dedicated workspace for at least 2 computers, one that they give me, as well as using my own. And it has to be hardwired to the internet. It can't be wireless. I'm like, well, can't do it. We don't have the internet that they want. We will, you know, then the hardwire is a problem. There's nowhere near the modem to do it. And then on top of that, there's nowhere to put 2 computers together. And I told her, I was like, hey, is this like written in stone what they want or whatnot? Can we make exceptions, work with things, so on and so forth? And basically it's what they want and what they expect. And she was telling me how they had to make changes in order for her husband to work from home. Which is fine, I guess. They're able to do it. I told her, I was like, the way things are here right now, I can't do it. But talking about it with the people here, and we're trying to figure out if we can make it happen. So maybe we can make it happen. That's a wait and see game, as well as a problem solving game. We'll see what happens. And the other thing is that they want solid full-time employees, and I was looking for something, or hoping for something that was a little bit more part-time. Maybe I could make and adjust my own hours or whatnot. Doesn't really look like it's going to work that way. They've got solid cut shifts. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe something can be figured out, both for here at the house physically as well as with the company itself. If we can get the physical requirements that they want met here, maybe the company will be flexible enough that I can fool around with shifts and hours and maybe do a split shift or something so that I can still sub. But I guess that's kind of what's going on. Thought I'd let you guys know since I haven't been on here in forever. You know, things are getting better in a way with the substituting. I enjoy it. Kids are opening up and talking. They're recognizing me. Some of them are looking for me and want me to sub other classes of theirs. That's a good thing, I think. At least it's encouraging to me, anyway. So, but talking about problems within the school district. I used to have this friend who substituted. Times they liked it, times they didn't. But it was flexible. It was money while they were going through school. And but I want to say it was last semester. They had a paper that they had to do. I think they got to choose their own topic, but what she wrote about was in relation to the school district and some of the problems that the school district is experiencing. And while I was looking at teacher certification programs, because I'm so close to finishing my bachelor's, you know, I asked her for her paper because she had done some research on the teacher certification programs for those who don't want to go back to school, either don't or can't go back to school to get their degree in education, as well as licensure. And it's expensive. And I understand it. In fact, if the program works, or if there's 2 programs by the district and there's 2 programs by the state, the programs work, I was thinking I could possibly get certified and licensed faster, or at the very least, more easily. So I asked her for her paper. She sent me a rough draft. I was kind of hoping for the final. But as I was reading this paper, she talks about some of the other issues in the district and how over the past probably year and a half, I want to say, they're down X number of teachers as well as X number of substitutes. And while the virtual school was going on here, a lot of the substitutes chose that point in time to resign and leave. Not substitutes, a lot of the teachers chose that time to resign and leave. And they cited all kinds of different reasons for it. Some of them just benefits weren't good enough, pay wasn't good enough. They didn't feel like they had the support from administration that they actually needed for some of the stuff that needed to be done, which kind of goes back to my advocating for parents and students. And at one point I had thought about running for school board. I had toyed with the idea. Probably not the best position for me because the school board doesn't really have as much power or affect policy as much as you would think. Not here, they don't. But as I was thinking about it, she was working on her master's in public administration. And the more I thought about it, administrators, whether you're a district administrator or you're a principal or assistant principal, those are also administrators here. They have influence, and they've got more influence than the teachers do. But you have to have a master's degree. Well, at least one of the programs, because I was talking with one of the teachers when I was subbing for an art class, one of the other teachers in the hallway was talking with me, and he was telling me he went through what we have here called a PACE program. And while he went through it, he was getting paid because he was working to teach. And he wasn't getting paid like an actual teacher. He was getting paid less, but he was getting paid because he was working full-time while going through this program and having some classes or evaluations at night. And I started thinking, I need to research all 4 of those programs, but if they're paying me to teach, even if it's as a teacher's aide or a student teacher or whatnot, being in a classroom with another certified teacher, if I'm doing that, I very well may actually be able to turn around and do work on my master's at the same time. Now, the PACE program is a 3-year program. if you complete it, when you complete it, you have your license as well as your certification for the state. Depending on how things go, that should count towards teaching hours and whatnot, being in the classroom. The master's program is 18 to 24 months. So by the time I got my licensure, I could have my master's degree for public administration. Maybe I can come out with my certification and turn around and apply for an administrative job, working as a principal or assistant principal. That would put me in a position where I can advocate not just for parents and students, but I can also advocate for the teachers who are trying to advocate for the parents and the students. It's going to require some more investigating on my part. I've actually got to look into these programs and see what all they require and they entail and whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of where things are going right now. Now, as far as this person goes that I used to know, I don't know why I was thinking about it earlier today. Probably because some of this licensure stuff is running around in my head, and I graduate this summer, so I just need to start looking at it. Even though they only gave me a draft of their paper and not their final paper that they turned in, some of the other problems that they had discussed, some of the issues that former teachers had brought up who had left the school district and were talking about why they'd left, she had started some pretty good ideas as far as what possible solutions could be to help motivate teachers to stay. They were just the beginnings of discussions. I mean, there was a couple of them that I had, well, what I thought were better ideas, especially when it came to like student loan reimbursement. But it was basically just taking her ideas and improving on them a little bit. For whatever reason, I was thinking about the podcast that I used to have. For those of you who aren't aware, I got rid of it. I deleted it. Everything's gone. I just got tired of it. I couldn't deal with it anymore. But it got me thinking, and I was like, you know, I don't know what everything is in her final paper that she submitted. But I do know that she's a good writer. I've seen other papers that she's written. I've read a few other things that were not school related that she's written. And I started thinking, depending on what that final paper has and says, she probably should submit it to one of the local news outlets, newspapers or something, for publication. I'll bet it would get published. A little bit of tweaking probably. Have an editor go through it for grammar and spelling and all that fun stuff that normally goes through. But whether they were willing to publish it or not, it needs to be published, just from the little bit that I saw. And the reason I say that is because it gives a little bit more view into what happens behind the scenes for the school system. A little bit more about problems. I don't know that she actually got to do it, but I know at one point she wanted to interview one or two administrators. She did interviews with teachers who had left, who'd resigned. And I'm pretty sure some of those teachers had ideas for improvement that may have motivated them to stay instead of leaving. You know, I know that there are parents in the school district who try to stay involved, you know, with their kids and things like that being in it. But even being just a substitute, I see things, hear things, and find out about things that they don't know about, they're not privy to. published paper has even more of stuff that even I can't find out about outside of having read her work. I wouldn't necessarily know about or whatever. So if it was published, especially in a local paper, that gives the parents more information as far as what the school district itself is struggling with, as far as what they see that needs to be changed, and possibly even who or what is standing in the way of these changes and improvements. I know a lot of times in the news, well, at least several months ago before I quit watching, a lot of times in the news they were making it sound like it was the parents versus the school district. But that's not always the case with everything. Some of this is teachers in the school district against other obstacles. Some of it's administration in the school district trying to get some things done or improvements done, and they have other, we'll say, entities standing in their way. Publish the paper. Or see if you can get it published. Let the parents see what's going on behind the scenes. Again, a lot of us want to advocate for the parents and the students. Teachers need somebody to advocate for them as well. Some cases, administration needs somebody to help advocate for them, as I am seeing. Publish the paper. Get the information out there. So, I guess that's all I've got for now. That's basically my update. That's gotten you caught up, so since before the holidays all the way up to pretty much right now. I don't know what else to say. I'll probably get in hot water for bringing that paper up again. But, like I said, it's somebody I used to know. Till next time, you guys watch your six.